Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili Gianarakos. Vasili, what's going on, buddy?
Yariv, it finally happened. It's
What?
February 2nd, 2022, and the Flyers have won a hockey game. Since the last time we talked, they've yet to do so in 2022. So,
dude, my roommate walked in, and he's a huge sports fan. He watches the Flyers with me, but he primarily follows the Eagles and the Sixers and and like the Phillies more. But he was like, I was listening on the radio, and he's like, is it true they won their first game in 2022? I'm like, yeah.
Unfortunately.
I was actually, before we get into our topics, I guess this is pretty interesting. I was listening to, I tend to listen to Steve Dangle's podcast.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's really entertaining too. So.
Oh yeah. They're very entertaining. I don't agree with everything they say, but I don't need to agree with people to listen to them and be entertained. And, I do really like their content though. They have a professional show. I do like it. They're a little bit panicky for me, but I still like it.
Yeah.
But they were talking about the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
And they're a complete shit show there. And they had one of the Canadian, because they have people who cover other Canadian teams, and they had their their Canadians coverage on. I forget the guy's name. Sorry, dude. But it was just interesting. They're going through historically maybe the worst season they've ever had right now.
Yeah. Similar to the Flyers too.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny part. It's the stuff that they were saying. One, it's definitely worse than the Flyers. Two, that while they do have two very significant injuries, they were kind of Price, I think, was 50-50 going into the year, but obviously Shea Weber was known to not be coming back. But they were talking about Caden Primo.
Yeah.
And who's their backup? Well, I'm forgetting the name right now. He's a fourth stringer.
Okay, Mop.
What is it?
I said, was it Jake Allen? I know he was injured, and then Primo came up.
Yeah, no, it's let me look it up so I don't get it wrong, because I do want to talk. It begins with an M, I believe. Now I'm embarrassed because I can't remember the guy's name.
That's okay. Honestly, it's escaping me too. Third string goalie, it's hard sometimes.
I think technically it's a fourth string goalie in this case.
Oh yeah, because Price would be I guess that's true. That's almost like Flyers levels of using 8 goalies in one season. What was that, 2-3 seasons ago?
Dude, they have they're on the top of the list of cap friendly too. I couldn't even find them. Montembeault. Oh
yeah, he played for Florida a bunch.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, but they were just talking about their goalie situation, and they were Caden Primo, he hasn't been able to win back-to-back games this year. He'll play well, and then he gets pulled in another game.
Well, look at the team in front of him.
Dude, and that's and he was he's not getting much help, but he needs to be better. And I was just thinking the whole time, and again, I know Carter Hart is playing better than he was last year. I'm well aware of that.
Ahead.
Yeah. But at the same time, this team, while they're playing poorly, I would argue that their losing streak under Yo was nowhere near as bad as the losing streak under AV. And by what I mean by that is the structure around the team.
Yeah.
If you remember,
there weren't a 7. There wasn't 7-0 drubbings.
That's what I'm saying to you is if you remember, when AV was still here, people were saying, oh, well, goaltending was holding up, and now it's not holding up anymore. And then now that Yo is the coach, people are like, well, Carter Hart is still holding up. Again, I still think Carter Hart is a franchise caliber player. I think he's incredible. Yeah. But it shows you how important the team in front of you is to playing goaltender, and how it is a immense trickle-down effect. That there is no goalie, and I'm going to repeat this, in my opinion, there is no goalie in the league that is going to look like a superstar all-star when the team in front of him is playing like garbage.
Yeah. Especially stats-wise, sorry, just to cut you off, but
no.
I mean,
why do you get pulled?
Yeah, because I mean you're getting 5 or 6 goals unanswered probably scored against you, but most of the time that isn't a goaltender's fault. It's usually like the chances the defense in front of him is letting occur, and then also just the systemic breakdowns of them defensively. I mean, if you're Carter Hart, look to last night and talk about systemic breakdowns. I mean, he played an amazing game. They wouldn't have won without him. I mean, I saw him first off make a 2-0 breakaway save against the Jets, and I literally yelled at my TV saying, "What are you doing to him?" Yep. Like I remember it was 1-0. He's making a 2-0 breakaway save, and I'm thinking to my head, like, this is obviously not what Yo wants to see or wants the team to be giving up, but it just speaks to like how much more mature last season, helped Hart develop into, or like how much more mature he's become just due to that. Because I think. If he was put into that situation, or just this past 13-game losing streak last season, I think it would have been entirely worse. Like they were bad last year, but they didn't have these, extended losing streaks. They were bad, but it was nothing crazy. And like if you look at, I mean, his mentality going forward and things like that, like like he's not gonna kind of go back into what he was doing last year, where he kind of like breaks under, what's going on just because the team's having a terrible season. So
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that statement, but I know it's hard. I'm sure people probably even laugh at me for saying this, but like I'm looking at the nuance, the way the team is playing. Again, even under those 13, that game.
Well, they've gone to overtime. They went to overtime, which is always already a step up.
That's the thing. It's like a lot of these games, like they're not getting blown out. They're not getting, like it was one of those situations where like, if you were healthy playing the way you were playing, you probably wouldn't have lost 13 in a row.
You probably could have won maybe half.
Yeah. Where AV's 10-game losing streak, he again didn't have a full lineup, but he had a healthier lineup.
And they were playing
they were just playing worse, like as a team. I would argue under Yo, they've been boring, like really boring at times, but they haven't been like structurally just a disaster. You know what I mean?
I mean, just by the odd man rushes, I think.
Yeah, like, exactly.
If you look and see the odd man rushes they're giving up, there's way few, like compared to before with AV, and then also the thing that's interesting too, that's the difference for me, is Yoda AV, you could just tell that the team is actually moving the puck a bit quicker. I mean, it's not really translating in terms of results, but they're not, I don't feel as though they're just dumping in for a prayer. There's actually some sort of like execution that they're trying to hit when they're going up the ice, even though it's not resulting in a lot of goals or a lot of wins. At least they're trying to kind of buy in.
Dude,
he's saying. And the thing is, it's hard for players because they know he's not going to be around. So like ultimately it's hard for them, I would say, to get motivated to like, let's buy into this new coach's system, when in like 6 months from now, we're gonna have to buy into a whole new set of things to learn from somebody else. So I can understand how that would be frustrating as a player, but also you're getting paid millions of dollars. So
yeah. Well,
it comes with the territory.
In fairness, I mean, even some of the ones that they lost, they, like I said, they weren't a disaster. And the last game, that was probably the most interesting game they played in quite a while.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the actual game, but like, I just look at the way the team is playing. It's almost a shame that Mike Yo is being measured underneath this, because like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I actually wouldn't have a problem with him coming back as an assistant coach at all.
No, me neither.
I don't think he'll get an opportunity to be head coach here, barring like maybe they go on a huge streak and they're like, oh well.
Yeah.
But here's the one thing I'll say, dude, and this is something I did not like about AV. Especially in seasons 2 and 3. I didn't hear any of this in season 1. Oh, I guess it was 2, 3, and 4. Did we get to 4? I don't remember anymore. Everything's just kind of a blur. But, he's the type of guy where like, you saw the Flyers like roster changes, and like I felt like he was like, well, this guy doesn't work for me, and this guy doesn't work for me, and that guy. You're not really seeing that with Mike Yo.
No, Yo adapts a lot. And I feel like AV would have definitely been one of the coaches where if he's handed a Jerry Mayhew, Willman, Jackson Cates, Ratcliffe that he's had to put in his NHL
He's not even
lineup,
using it. He's not even
using them. But also if he has to use them, there's not going to be, you're not going to see the performances that those players are having. I feel like he's not a guy that's going to speak to those type of players. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And get the most out of them. Like Yo is a motivator. You can get you can get a lot of the players that you would think and look at, well, this guy probably isn't the most talented, aka a Mayhew, but he's giving him the opportunities to succeed, and he's coaching him up to believe that, okay, I can play at this level, right? Well, where, I don't know if AV is a coach that does things like that, but
no, I don't think he does. I really don't. And in fairness, I don't think all coaches do that either.
No,
and
I think styles.
Well, I think when you've hit a certain point in your career too, you're like, well, I just need professionals. I need people to come in and play my system and do what I do. But at the same time, like people talk about this being a young man's league, it doesn't really work with youth.
No.
I know, obviously you're younger than I am, by like almost a decade, right? Maybe even a decade.
Yeah.
What are you, 20?
25.
You're 25? 26. You're 26?
Yeah.
Right, you just had it.
I don't even know. I just had a birthday. It just changes.
Well, it's 8 years difference. And I can tell you that, like, when I was your age and younger, right? And we talk about like 25 years old is how old these guys were. It's like, I didn't really respond well to
criticism, probably.
Not even criticism, to like not having the olive branch to be like, well, there's more here. Like, oh, like even if like I criticize, you would be like, yo, I'm criticizing you because I believe you're better than this.
Yeah.
Not that you're just not doing the job. It's
hard to see through the fog almost of like, why is this coach on me for this? There's obviously something else that he thinks he can get out of me, but there's obviously a way to convey that. So, I mean, you're not kind of burning bridges in terms of a relationship between a coach and a player.
Well, and we all know this too, right? Confidence is a humongous part of the game. And like, let's look about somebody like Morgan Frost, and Mike Yeo came out publicly and was like, I think it wasn't the last game, it was the one before that. He was like, that was the best game I've seen from Morgan Frost. Yeah. And that line played really well in general, right? The Mayhew Wilman line. And, he made it a point, and they played well the game before too. And he made it a point to say that. And you don't look at Frost's numbers. I think he had like 1 assist past few games. You don't look at his numbers and go, oh, he's like lights out, but he's doing the things that honestly he needs to be doing to be successful. I literally was like watching him last night and I was like, man, if he just like continues to do this, gains his confidence, and then all of a sudden starts giving himself the ability to take some of those chances that I know he can do, the puck moving, the wheeling and dealing that he's capable of, he's going to break out. And like, I totally see that from like a coach's perspective, how like, you might not see it in the numbers right now, but the process is there. And I do wonder if it's the message in the locker room. And I just think like Mike Yeo does deserve credit for that. And yes, the 13-game losing streak is an embarrassment, no doubt about it. And like, there's really not a lot of good to take away from that. But we are a depleted lineup. And I know it's a huge excuse for Chuck Fletcher, but it is also a reality of this team that when you're not that good, you're not one of the best teams in the league, and you lose all of this talent, you're just not going to be very good. Like we saw Canadians are not a Stanley Cup team, but they're probably a middling team if they're healthy with that team they had last year.
Yeah. And the thing is, just to speak to that too, and I think it's more of a process of the Flyers are playing a game under Yo where they have the opportunities to win, just in terms of the lineup that they're icing and just the players and the inexperience that they're putting onto the ice. They're unable to kind of capitalize on winning those games that are close and actually, executing in those situations. And that's going to come with time because a lot of the lineup was decimated. And if you're losing veterans like Sean Couturier, Ryan Ellis, Kevin Hayes, those guys are going to help you get over the hump and win those 1-goal games. I believe over the 13-game losing streak, I think they had 6 1-goal games. Let's confirm that here. There's one. Yeah, they had 6 losses to 1-goal games. So, I mean, if let's say
come up in your mind there.
Yeah, like let's say you're in a situation and they win those 6 games, how different does the outlook appear to be for the team going forward into the deadline? Like we're probably having completely different conversations about where this team's going to go. They're probably honestly going to buy maybe at the deadline because that'd be 12 more points in the standings, 6 more wins.
Yeah. I mean,
it still might be out of reach, but they'd be obviously a lot.
It wouldn't be an embarrassment.
Yeah. And we wouldn't be talking. I feel like there'd be less rebuild, tear it down talk.
Well,
in that.
Absolutely.
In that aspect too.
This is where I agree with Chuck Fletcher and Dave Scott. And I know that they got a lot of heat for this, but I do agree with them. I do not see a full tear down here.
No.
I see a retooling. And I actually, and this is what, we talked about this already. I'm like, this is an opportunity. We're not actually as bad as we are in the standings.
Yeah.
Like we're not a great team, but we have an opportunity here to get a high draft pick where we probably shouldn't have. So let's take advantage of it. It's obvious Couturier and Ellis are not coming back this year. Even if Hayes comes back, he's going to be at 50% the remainder of the year regardless, right? This just isn't a year where we're going into the playoffs and making noise. Even if some miraculous run, actually, if they go on a miraculous run, it's absolutely possible. But they're not doing that. Let's be honest. They're not doing that.
They're going to have to win like 30 plus games out of like the last like 40.
Right.
Or something.
And that's assuming we don't get any more injuries, which I doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, real. Well, it's an opportunity here because you still have young players coming. Shocking to some of the people out there in Flyers world. There are still young players being developed in this organization.
There are a lot of young prospects that actually look pretty promising just based on their like +1 draft years. If you look at a Bobby Brink, Desnoyers, like
Jay O'Brien.
Jay O'Brien's looking a lot better.
Without injuries. Well, without injuries, he would lead his team in points.
Yeah, that too. But also, even last year was about a point a game.
He's a point per game again,
and he's point a game. Yeah, this season is
with injuries.
Well, so.
And again, that is an issue. But like there isn't that like superstar young talent in here. But you don't need to do that to be competitive. I do think we need to get one somehow, and that's why I'm like, maybe this is
the chance.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing that, I mean, fans should really look forward to. And just if you're looking at the outlook, for the Flyers organization in general coming up in the next, few years, ultimately they shouldn't be this bad. They wouldn't be in a top 5 pick discussion with Couturier, Ellis, Hayes, Brassard. I mean, all the injury trouble that they've kind of gone through. So if you can hit on the top 5 pick and add like a top tier talent, that's not only adding to the talent that you already have, but it's giving you the opportunity that you never should have had in the first place. So it's almost like that. It's almost honestly a mirror, I feel, to the Nolan Patrick offseason where we drafted him. In a sense,
only we got incredibly lucky.
Yeah, we weren't that bad that year. We just got really lucky. We were bad, but we weren't like number 2 overall pick bad. We were like
correct
11th overall or something. It was still bad.
I think it was 13.
Oh, 13. Okay, so a little better than that. But either way, I mean, the team wasn't that bad and lucked into it. This year the team is this bad, and they're probably going to have a chance to pick in the top 5. They just have to make sure. I mean, there can't be another miss. Obviously, in hindsight, it's hard to go back, and say, "Oh, let's pick Cale Makar over Nolan Patrick." You can do that with every single draft in the history of the NHL. So
yeah.
I mean, there's not much really to split hairs about. They picked a guy who was the consensus number 1 overall pick in a draft for probably 2 years before the draft even happened. So
since he was 15 years old, people can go watch videos about it.
Yeah. So there's nothing
like the same way really Shane Wright is being. Yeah,
there's nothing you can take around that. Like, I'll give you an example. Let's say the Flyers got into that position 1-2, and they have the opportunity to take a Shane Wright, and they don't take Shane Wright. What's the reaction going to be to not taking him? Probably like people fucking going crazy, right? But like, if the pick turns out, let's say the pick they do take in that scenario, and that isn't Shane Wright, turns out to be better than him. In hindsight, everyone's going to look back and say, "Wow, the Flyer scouts and the Flyer staff really knew what they were doing." But like at the time of the draft, everybody's going to want Shane Wright. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have.
So I'm happy we're not that bad.
No,
and honestly, like, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, I know I keep bringing up Logan Cooley, and the reason I bring that up because, in my opinion, if I'm picking first overall, I'm probably not taking Shane Wright.
I wouldn't take him, but that's just me.
Right. I mean, he, to me, is not in this crop of players. He doesn't seem like a consensus number 1 this year.
There seems to be doubts in terms of not his. He seems like he's a consistent player, but it doesn't seem like he's dominating the net like that level. And I mean, if you're a number 1, that's what you want to ultimately see, a guy dominate and show that he's better than his peers, where he's showing he is on, certain nights, but there's also certain nights where there's certain guys, in the league that he's playing in that are doing, much better than him from a points perspective. So it's hard to place. I mean,
that's actually a little different than Nolan Patrick, because outside of the injury, Nolan Patrick was dominant in the WHL. He was like by far the best player.
The only thing that's crazy to me that, I mean, I believe if the Flyers had the opportunity to pick right, which I don't think they're going to be in that 1-2 range, and I'm not sure
5 to 10.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Cooley will be a player that might drop a bit. I could see it happening a little.
TDP, man.
Yeah, so if he drops the Flyers, that's like a blessing. But at least for Wright, he plays with Zayd Wisdom. Sorry, the name was escaping me for a second. But he plays with Zayd Wisdom, so I feel like the Flyers would go for Wright just because of that chemistry. That's my opinion. I mean, who knows? Obviously,
you might be right. Look, I'm not saying that he would be a bust or anything like that. Too, I just like in my mind, I'm like, I feel like the best player in this draft is going to come from the USNTDP, and I like even I'm like looking at the statistics, and who's the guy who plays
that or one of the Russians? I feel like Yariv.
Exactly. Almost like Rantanen in the year where he was like kind of like an 8 or 9, and then you go back to that draft and you're like, he's top.
He should have been top 3 or top 4.
Exactly. And the Flyers actually were very interested in him.
Yeah. Well, that was the Provorov draft year, right?
Exactly. And again, I don't think we made a mistake by drafting Provorov. But if you look at, so right now I'm just like on elite prospects, right? You have, you have like, from the USNTDP, you have 3 guys that are like ranked really high. What is this? Maybe this consolidated list. But you have Seamus Casey, Ryan Chelsea, and they're both defensemen. And then you have Logan Cooley as like one of the top players. And then who's the other guy? What the hell is his name? Is it not Gauthier?
Genther.
Genther. Yeah. Is it Genther?
I don't know if it's Dylan Genther. I don't know what his first name is.
Again, I'm not expert on this year's draft.
Yeah, neither are we. Neither am I, but
barely had enough time here. Hold on a second. Let me see if I what the hell is his name?
I think it's Guenther. I think.
Yeah, it's with a G. What? Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep here. But my whole thing is like, I just look at that USNTDP program. I bring this up all the time. They produce pro players. Now, I agree with what you're saying about Europeans as well. They're already playing against men. And I look at somebody like Matthew Savoie, right? From the Winnipeg Ice, who's linesman with the Flyers prospect Connor McLennan, right?
Okay.
He's obviously got great numbers, right? 19 goals, 36 assists, 55 points in 38 games. But I look at that and I go, is the WHL as good at developing young players as the USNTDP?
No, I would say
no.
I mean, over history, sure. But if you look at the last 10, 15 years, then that program has been like miraculous in finding top tier talent. So you're going to want to go with the recency bias if you're a scout. At least that's what I would do.
It's that program. Like if the USNTDP went and played the best juniors program, they would shellac them.
100%.
Like they're capable of playing AHL teams. They're that good. You know,
they have a lot of talent, but it's also just the structure in which they carry themselves and they play as well.
Exactly. So. I'm getting a guy like all we have to do is look at Joel Farabee and look at Cam York. Remember, York is a defenseman.
They're ready pretty quickly. So.
Exactly. And people were like, "Oh, York isn't ready." He like walked right into the NHL right now.
Yeah.
Like
to be honest, I feel like he probably could have started the season with the big club. They just didn't want to because they had a lot more depth than they thought they were going to have.
Totally.
So they're just like, okay, let the kid. They're like, yeah, let the kid play in the A, let him rip it up, and then
it was a good move
later on. Exactly.
The problem is the Phantoms weren't playing well majority of the beginning, and not due to him. They're just as a team. Now they're actually like rolling.
Yeah,
he just got sent down to play a little bit more with them. But I do look at this draft, and I don't even think like there are guys in this draft that, let's be honest, we're not experts on this draft.
No,
but just talking to even Steve Cornianos, and if you guys didn't listen to that episode, definitely make sure to check it out. You can see there are like 15 dudes in the beginning of this draft
that could be very good players. Yeah.
Yes. So like you're not,
especially too based on the insight Steve was giving us, who like watches every single one of these guys, which we
exactly.
don't. But yeah, he was excited. So that's if he's excited, I'm excited.
Exactly. Well, I've seen this happen in other draft classes, and I'm like, all right, take the opportunity, grab a guy like. Again, Joel Farabee, just even a guy as good as Joel Farabee.
I mean, realistically, and I spoke to this in my last article, like this is an opportunity for the team. And more so, it's not even the fact of them being bad and probably having a top 10 pick. I think more of the opportunity lies in who they can kind of get assets for in terms of like who they're going to unload at the deadline. Like realistically, I mean, you can get a first round pick. Like, you're going to get a first round pick for Claude Giroux. Not you can get one. You will get a first round pick for him.
And a top prospect.
So that's already could give you 2 first rounders in this draft that's supposed to be, pretty talented. And then I don't know if Rasmus Ristolainen will get you a first round pick, but there's a possibility that he will. If there was 9 or 10 other teams looking to trade for him in the offseason and there was a bidding war, it leads me to believe, with the way the NHL is, NHL GMs are, how they value defensemen and right-shot-handed defensemen who are big and 6'5".
I don't think he's getting traded anymore, man.
I don't know if he's going to get traded. I'm just saying.
I know.
In terms,
You're right.
In terms of the value, they could have up to 3. They could have 3 first round picks in this draft if the moves are made, like, to bring those on. I don't know if Fletcher's going to trade Ristolainen. I personally don't see the benefit in keeping him around. Well, I do see the benefit, but
here's
I don't see the benefit based on what you can get in the return.
So, like,
the money you're going to pay.
No. Like, dude, I totally agree. So, and I think the money has a huge thing to do with it. By the way, huge.
Yeah.
Like, if Rasmus is going to demand a lot of money, the reality is we probably won't be able to keep him, and we're going to have to trade him, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So let's get that out of the way. But I was watching him last night, and it's just like, we don't have mean players on this team.
No,
he is it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You get rid of him, when are you going to find another guy like that who can replace that?
No, totally agree. And I'm not saying it's impossible either, but I look at Fletcher and I look at him looking at Rasmus Ristolainen and being like, well, I don't want to have to go out and replace this guy.
I might as well just keep him. Yeah.
I might as well keep him.
Which I understand that line of thinking.
And again, we have to go back to what we were saying in the beginning, that if we really believe this is a retooling, he's not young, but I think he's 27 years old.
I mean, he'll still be pretty good, probably.
That's what I mean.
Is competing again.
He's got 5-6 years left in the NHL, right? He's entering his prime right now, 27 years old. Like, that's really the age where you're, like, developed as a defenseman and you're an adult and you're physical.
5-6 really good high level years.
Exactly. Where he competes in the playoff. Like, Rasmus in the playoffs is obviously a big impact, which is why a team will trade for him.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the physicality and just the fact that he's going to get away with so much more.
Well, that's why I keep going. Remember, I told you I was like, I'm 50-50 on it, because you can convince me either way with him. Like, if I can sign him for a good amount, I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not signing him for $5 million plus, I'm absolutely considering it.
That's the thing is, what's he making right now?
5 plus.
Okay, because he's gonna, like, that's the only thing. I mean, like, if you look at it realistically, I mean, he's gonna definitely want to
5.4. Yeah,
5.4. Okay, he's gonna definitely want a raise. I mean, that's just how it works going into your UFA year. That's the thing.
Yes. So okay.
If you're paying him $6 million, that's the only thing, which is probably
you can't pay him.
That's what I'm guessing he's gonna command if he's making 5.4, $600,000 raise.
Here's my counter argument to that statement, because I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right. And I think this is partly why I'm 50-50.
Yeah.
I'm not certain.
It's hard to speculate because I'm just looking at the free agent market, how it is in the NHL. Everybody gets overpaid. But just right shot defenseman who's big, that's just like every GM's dream. Like
100%. You can compensate with term. Like, you can give him a 5-year contract, right? You can give him that term that you want. Now, this might be completely wrong, but I look at the $5.4 million that he received before this. He was playing a number 1 defenseman role.
Yeah, first
power play. No longer doing that here.
Yeah.
You're not getting role money to be a top 3 guy. You're getting money to be our number 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
And a number 4 defenseman makes what Travis Sanheim is making.
If he gets, like, what, 5 million, bring him back. But.
That's what okay. And there's my conundrum is if he, and it's, again, he stated that he is happy here, even with the shitty season, he likes it here. So if you can sign him for 4.5 million for 5 years, a part of me is kind of like, well, I'm going to have to replace him anyway. If you want to tell me that I can trade him for even a mid round, like a first round pick, like even a later first round pick and like a young player. Okay. Like, I'm in for that too. But we got to replace him in the offseason regardless. If I can replace him without having to compete in the UFA market and get him at that price, I mean, that makes Chuck Fletcher look pretty smart. Maybe that's not possible at all. I'm not saying he doesn't want that raise. I'm just saying he's not the guy who signed that large contract with Buffalo.
No. Yeah, he's not getting the same opportunity just in terms of the power play one usage that boosted his point totals and then hence the money, right?
Yeah, but he's not that guy either. Like he's not a puck moving defenseman really. Like he has some ability, but he's not like he's not.
You're not going to want him. You're not going to want him running your power play. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
The thing with him, I just look at UFA and the nature of it. I mean, if they can get it at 4.5, that'd be
that's before UFA.
Yeah, that's before. That'd be amazing. I mean, for an extension, I just think once he hits that market, I feel like it's just going to be a bidding war, and then it's gonna go up from there. Totally. I'm looking at it as a comparable. I mean, Tyler Myers, very similar to Ristolainen. He played in Buffalo as well,
but an offensive defenseman.
Yeah, a little more offensive.
Offensive players get paid more, like JVR. Yeah,
I'm just looking in stature. What he got $6 million from Vancouver. I think like Risto. I mean, between 4.5 and 6. If he gets more than 6, whatever team signs him for more than $6 million, I mean that's ridiculous.
I think even $6 million is way too much for him.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Free agency, you always have those contracts where somebody overpays.
And you're absolutely right. So that deal has to happen before the trade deadline.
That's why I would just trade him, because I think it's going to be too. I just think it's going to be too too much of a competition in terms of trying to re-sign him.
Well, you have time now. You have to be doing the work, which I'm sure is happening. Again, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, Vasili. My whole thing is like, we don't know what's going on in the background now.
No, not at all.
If Fletcher's having a conversation with him and it's like, hey, I want to stay. And he's like, well, this is my budget for you.
It looks like they do want to keep him from like everything that we've been hearing and even from what Jamie's been reporting. So I think they probably are going to keep him.
If they sign him for $6 million, I'll be pissed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's what I don't want. Like, has Fletcher had a tendency to overpay guys?
No,
not really. So that's the thing. Like,
in fact, if you look at his deals,
other than Kevin Hayes,
UFA,
but that's a UFA. So that's the thing. Like Rasmus, you have the luxury that you're actually negotiating with him beforehand.
Well, and look at the Sean Couturier. So my example of this Sean Couturier deal, right? Like Coots on the open market would have got $10 million a year. Oh, he signed 100%. For under $8 million with us.
Yeah,
before free agency. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, if this deal happens, it's prior to the trade deadline. It's peace of mind for Rasmus, and he stays here and he does take a pay cut. He doesn't get, maybe he gets $5 million. Maybe we're wrong, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I see happening. I'm really either or with him. If we sign him to $6 million a year, he's gonna be hard to trade, even if we need to trade him.
That's the thing. Like, I would like to trade him. I wouldn't mind to keep him, and that's the thing. I don't dislike him as a player. I actually think it's something that the team needs.
Right, that's the problem.
It's just that based on the value you're going to get, I just couldn't pass it up with this draft.
Well,
I was the GM, but
we don't know what the value would be.
No, yeah, we're speculating
as well.
We're speculating on that.
But no. To your point, I want to talk about that too, because like, what if the offer on the table is like, okay, it's not going to be a high draft pick. Like, let's say it's a 25, right? First round pick.
I would take it.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not all that's coming back in that deal. You're asking for a prospect.
Probably, yeah.
So
probably like a middling prospect, something that might not be too.
I mean, you got to think about what we gave up for him.
That's the thing, right? You gave up a first, a second, and Hag, right?
Yeah, we gave up a lot. We gave up a number 13 pick.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's what I mean. Like, that's months ago at this point, like 7, 8, 9 months ago. So I can't see that his value's dwindled below that, right?
That's my point. So you have to get a first round pick and a good young defenseman.
Yeah.
That is a different conversation than just getting a 25 pick in the draft.
That's true. So it'll be tough for Fletcher, to navigate that. The most interesting part for me, at least with the whole Rasmus situation, is, okay, let's say you're at a crossroads where you have a deal for between 5 and 5.5 million, or you can get just a first round pick for him. What do you do if you're Fletcher? Do you take the first, or do you sign him back at 5?
Depends on the call. Yeah,
that's the thing. I think
I feel 5.5 makes me uncomfortable.
I would go 5. Like 4.5 to 5 is the ideal. If you're going past 5 territory, then I'm kind of wondering, like, I mean, you already have Ellis and Provorov locked up for 6 plus.
Let me ask you this. Who would you rather have, Rasmus Ristolainen or Travis Sanheim?
Oh, I'm taking Sanheim.
Okay, so exactly. So Sanheim has how much left on his contract? 2 years?
1 year left.
1 year left at 4.6. So
he's gonna get more than that for sure, probably closer to 5.56 as well.
Exactly, because that's his role.
You could be paying 4 guys $6 million. Like if you re-sign Rasmus, you really can't re-sign Sanheim. That's you're kind of almost earmarking yourself, because if you re-sign both, and we've all been saying they need to upgrade again on D somehow. How are you making the upgrade?
That is.
It's either pick one or pick none. That's the way I look at it. So.
It's either pick one, which the option is Sanheim. Pick none, which is trade both of them, which would be hilarious. Yeah. I don't expect.
But I don't expect it, but I could see it.
I think it's look right now.
Plausible.
A lot of things are possible. Like I even talked about trading Scott Lawton. I don't think he's getting traded.
No, he's one of their best players right now. But.
Absolutely. Actually, let me ask you this: who's a better player, Scott Lawton or JVR?
Right now?
Yeah. Even at the time JVR signed the contract.
I mean, at the time he signed the contract, JVR, because like 33 goals in Toronto, like that's nothing to scoff at. But right now, Scott Lawton's better right now. In terms of just overall like value to like everything he can do on the ice.
But Scott Lawton was a better player, in my opinion, when JVR signed that contract. Just JVR is a productive player.
Yeah,
Scott Lawton is still not very productive.
No,
he's not a. I think he's not a 60-point player.
I think he has 18 points right now. He's probably going to get around 40 points this year.
I mean, if the team is good, he can have a career year. I really like Scott Lawton,
but he's on pace for like 40 points. It's not that bad.
But it's not even about the points. He's just a better player.
Well, yeah. I mean,
like you last man in the game.
Defensively, you could put
JVR.
You could put Lawton on the ice 100% of the time. I mean, he's not going to make like a stupid pinch,
and yet he's making less than half of what JVR is making.
Yeah.
So that was my point about the Risto thing, is like, you're not producing points anymore. Your room to ask for more money is going away.
Gone. Yeah. So he's going to try to ask for as much as he can right now.
Or he's going to ask for turn. And that's kind of like, I'm like looking at all this stuff, because like, I'm not upset about like anything. There are a few guys on this team that I'm not trading at all under any circumstances. But like, I don't know what to do with the rest of the line. I think it's really tough. It's really tough. I think
that's one of the biggest things for Fletcher, obviously, aside from the Giroux trade that he's going to make. I mean, other than that, most of his deadline deals are going to be pretty straightforward, aging vet for a pick. The Ristolainen one, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes to handle that. That's why he gets paid the big bucks that we do not get paid. I think whatever he does, there's going to be criticism from either side. At this point, whatever he does in general, I think there's going to be criticism of him, unfortunately. It's just the nature of it and where the team is at.
Fletcher, you're saying?
Yeah, Fletcher, yeah. And that's the thing. No matter if he makes a good or a bad move, let's look like, you can kill him all he wants, but that Cam Atkinson move is genius. I mean, Atkinson's already
that was a great move.
But people, I mean, there are certain people saying when Voracek was off to his hot start, they shouldn't have traded.
Well,
should have made the trade. I mean, it's hindsight, right?
You didn't lose that trade.
No, exactly.
My whole thing is that you didn't, when Voracek was traded, people were just like, it's a certain media person. I'll leave his name out of this, but he does not like me either. And I imagine a lot of people don't like him just because of the way he behaves. But, I remember he was like, oh, bye-bye, Jake Voracek. The only thing he ever did here was, talk shit on Media Reporter. I'm like, only thing you ever did here.
He never had like
for
500 plus assists.
It's just like Flyer. I just felt like people were like, "Oh my god, we finally got rid of Voracek," and it's like, no, we could use him right now.
I would have. I mean, to be fair,
I love Atkinson. He's been great.
If I could have traded JVR for Atkinson, that's the trade I would have made. They wouldn't have done that, obviously, because why would you do that? Just the value isn't there in terms of what you're giving up and getting back. But Atkinson, I mean, he's had a big bounce back. Everybody was wondering, okay, is he going to be able to get back to his prior form? because he had a couple down seasons after Panarin left the Blue Jackets.
Yeah.
He already has more points this season in 10 less games than he did all of last season in 56 games.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, he looks great.
I think he has 40 something.
Yeah, he looks, I think maybe 40. Did he hit 40 something already? Let me see. I think he has a little bit more than Giroux, if I remember. Oh, 36.
Yeah. So he has more 36. Than last year's total already in less games.
So him and Giroux on a similar point per game pace. Giroux's the highest on the team. Then after that is Travis Connectny.
We had him as a talking point as well. So.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about TK, who's obviously looked a lot better of late. I thought it was really funny that people gave Fletcher a lot of crap for calling TK one of the best young players in the league. If he thinks that about TK, what do you think he thinks about Provorov? Just to say that. So I think Travis Connectny has looked considerably better of late. I still think he's been a streaky player. He hasn't had his best season at all this year, but he still has those flashes where he's just like super like
in my opinion, that goal that he scored, that looked like a vintage snipe from him that was from about 2 seasons ago where he was ripping it up, right?
And he's been everywhere of late, like literally getting chances left and right. I mean, personally, like he was not on my options to trade. I know you brought up an interesting trade with him, but like, you know, at the end of the day, I really think that the value is keeping TK, fix this fucking team
somehow
and get him back up to that like near point per game status.
Well, my only reason for trading was just because sometimes with a young player like that, they might just need a change of scenery, and you have to be able to be on the pulse for that as a GM. All the time. Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't want to trade him based on the fact that there's a lack of talent or that I think he wouldn't rebound if you did keep him. I was just saying that last week I would look at it a lot more than I would have previously. Like if you're Fletcher, I think this offseason you got to really evaluate anything that comes to your desk in terms of a trade offer. So I think if there was a decent offer for him, that's something he'd probably entertain a lot more than he would have in the past, just due to the nature of what's happened. That's kind of the same thing with Provorov too, because I would never trade Provorov, but just this is kind of all like relating to what Elliot Friedman said on his 32 Thoughts podcast about both Connectny and Provorov, that for Provorov, the Flyers last year, if you tried to call or even previously in trade or call and, you know, ask about trading for him, they'd kind of laugh you off the phone almost. Now it's to the point where they wouldn't laugh you off the phone. They'd listen to your offer, but to actually move on from Provorov, it had to be a substantial like amount of value that you're getting in return. Like you have to blow their socks off with an offer, which makes tons of sense for Provorov, right? Unless you're getting blown out of the water, why make a deal?
Yeah.
Whereas Friedman was alluding to for Connectny that, you know, they told him last summer they had the chance to trade him, and they didn't trade him because they believed in him. And then probably with the season, you know, spiraling out of control again, I'm assuming that if there is offers, they're going to seriously probably consider it.
100% agree. I don't put TK in the same category as Provorov ever.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Provorov is the backbone of the defense, where TK is like a highly valuable young asset that,
you know what's crazy though about Connectny is he had that huge goalless drought, but since Yo took over as the coach,
he's almost point per game player.
His point total is 15 in 21 games, third on the team after Giroux and Atkinson.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and it's something to think about what we were saying about AV earlier.
He might have been, I mean, he was a real problem. Let's be honest.
What, AV?
Yeah. If you look at just the regression of the younger guys, every single younger player under AV, as soon as he left, they've been playing way better. And just look at their point totals.
Outside of Farabee, who's
immune. But yeah, Sanheim, Lindblom, Provorov, Connectny, they're point totals have all skyrocketed. Not to say that point totals mean everything, but
with a 13-game losing streak.
Yeah, that too. But not to say point totals mean everything, but if you watch the games, they're playing better too. I mean, even Provorov's a lot better defensively.
That's my point about what I was saying in the beginning is like, even with this 13-game losing streak, for some reason, it's still not as bad.
Well, they're not playing as bad. They're not playing as bad.
Yeah. And if you like literally saw them healthy, they probably would have won a lot more of those games.
Those one-goal games that we were just saying, like they lost 6 or 7 one-goal games. I mean, I have a pretty, decent time believing that if they have a lot of their best players who are out injured right now on the roster, they're either winning a handful of those games or most of those games.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of them, it was them choking it away. They had the lead, and then the teams came back against the Islanders, against the Bruins.
And this team has been brutal this year. Do not get what Vasili and I are talking about. Like, we are aware of how bad
they're bad. They're abysmal. Like, we know that they're very bad. They're not getting probably much better. They're going to be bad for the remainder of the year, most likely.
Well, you know what, man? I wouldn't be shocked if they start playing better. I really
wouldn't. They are playing better, but I just think that they're still going to get their losses in. Especially after they make the trades and kind of like unload everybody.
I kind of want them to do it earlier rather than later. I don't think it's happening with Giroux, but like in my opinion, I'm like,
you can trade Justin Braun tomorrow. I don't think his value is going to be much different at the deadline than it's going to be.
Totally. Right now. I completely agree with you. If anything, trade him before he gets injured. Same thing with Brassard.
Yeah.
But like I look at a guy like Isaac Ratcliffe, right? Like, without these injuries, Ratcliffe doesn't get that look.
No.
And be honest with me, and I think you're going to agree with me. Did Isaac Ratcliffe not look better than pretty much every other guy they called up to play on the fourth line? Like, Jackson Cates, Connor Bunneman. Like, did he not outperform
those guys? He outperformed them all just like with 2 hits that he made in that LA game. Just his presence, chances. Just his presence in general, I think. I mean, you have a big guy like that.
He has a nice shooter.
He has a great shot, quick release. I mean, and the thing that's the most impressive for me with him is for a big guy who's 6'6", he moves around the ice.
He's a great skater.
Very
I've been
well.
saying that for a while.
And that's that's something that's very invaluable. And I mean, almost kind of gives me an outlook of him where, not to say he's going to get to this, respect in terms of his aggressiveness, physicality, but Tom Wilson, kind of very reminiscent. Tom Wilson's a big guy, skates very well for his size. Ratcliffe kind of reminds you of that with the skating, just in terms of a big guy who could fly around the ice. Isn't afraid to throw his body around. Has some scoring touch too. I mean, I'm not sure what his ultimate upside is, but definitely I could see him being on the third line sooner than later.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
He could look good with limited talent. Like, who's he playing with realistically? Bunneman and McEwen. But with some better guys, then you'll see. Right?
Well, he got a shift with Giroux at one point and looked good on it. And here's my point, though, is would he have gotten that opportunity if it not were for all of these injuries?
Oh, definitely not.
Like, and again, I understand why. Like, Willman was outplaying him in the AHL level. Jerry Mayhew, was top point producer for them, right? Frost, obviously makes sense. But I look at Ratcliffe and I'm like, I want to see these guys now.
Well, when are they ever going to get the chance? He's 22 years old, right? So it's now or never almost.
Well, I don't know if it's now or never, but it's like it's an opportunity. This is what I'm trying to say, right? It's an opportunity. You're out of the playoffs. What is your fucking risk?
It's time to evaluate.
Exactly.
That's what we were saying last week, and even I was alluding to in a lot of my articles
That's why I got called up, though.
Yeah, that's
true. Is what we're saying. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's definitely true, and I think Fletcher realizes that he has young guys that were drafted in high positions. It's not like they're coming into playing into the AHL, like first AHL season, especially with Ratcliffe and some of those other guys. So he's likely thinking, why not? Now the guys are injured and there's not much to play for. Like, what's to lose in calling up a guy like this? And the least thing that the thing that we'll figure out, at least if we do call him up and let's say he can't play or hang at this level, is that, hey, he needs more development time in the AHL if he ever wants to make it. And I mean, that's the least thing that could happen. I mean, if you lose a game or not based on a guy like that being in the lineup, I don't think it really matters at this point. And ultimately, losing is probably what they should want to do technically. If you look at it from a draft pick standpoint, I mean, you don't want to establish a losing culture. You want to win every game you can. But I mean, let's be real, at this point in this season, the better pick they can get is probably a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's a better position that they're in going into the trade deadline. Like, if they're not middling and trying to potentially, come back in the year. No, it's like, just accept where you are right now. Right now. I agree you can turn it around fast. I'd be open to the idea you can turn around next year. But the reality is right now, even if you get everybody back and your team starts winning again, you're not catching the teams above.
You gotta literally win like 35 games or something. Well, I think Alex Appleyard was saying on Twitter, you have to go like 35-8. Or something, just to have a chance. Just a chance.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
If they did go 35-8, they still might not fucking make it in. So
exactly. And if they do, crazy. They would deserve to make it, but you're still not making it.
No, pretty much. So you gotta just accept it for what it is at this point.
Yeah, you're a bottom team in the league.
At least, I mean,
and you're not getting those guys back.
At least we see Fletcher though not hesitating to bring those guys up, because I noticed that was a kind of staple of Hextall's regime, where he would draft a lot of the younger guys and he just let them sit in the AHL, which to a point, I mean, they do need AHL development time, and it's shown that AHL development time does help young players, but at some, instance and juncture, you just need to, see what guys have that you've drafted, right? And at the age 22, I think it's a good time, especially for Ratcliffe, to start looking into that. So
totally, and Mike Yeo is the right guy to do that under.
He's definitely a development coach,
right?
The way and that he handles the younger guys, and even like how he's saying, we're on a 13-game losing streak, but every day we're coming to the rink and being positive and motivating and trying to get guys to play to the best of their ability. It's not like, when you heard AV during his 10-game losing streak, well, we need to be better and we need to do this better, and he's calling guys out. Like, Yo's not blaming anybody. He's just saying, as a team, collectively, we're bad. We're going to work every day in practice to become better and build those habits. And you've even seen players like TK saying at this point, it's all about, bringing the habits forth in your game and learning how to win. And that's something they're going to have to establish with all these young guys, right? Learning how to win should be the main point of the rest of this season, because going forward, a lot of these younger players are going to be here, and learning how to win a 1-goal game when you're, tight in the third period, or learning how to come back from a 1-goal deficit in the third period and win that game, or hold on to a 1-goal lead. Those are the things that these guys really need to kind of hammer in and get more accustomed to doing, especially in a year where you have the opportunity to kind of go through those trials and tribulations when not every win matters as much as it usually would, right?
No, totally. That's kind of where I'm coming from, is like, this is an opportunity, take advantage of it. Like, put Ratcliffe in, put Frost in.
That's what Shushko has. Like,
right. Rubtsov is injured, but like, honestly, I want to take a look at him. Connor Bunham is still pretty young. Yeah. Like, I'm fine with that.
I wouldn't mind even after the college season's done, get Jay O'Brien in a game, get Noah Cates in a game.
Bobby Brink. I think Noah Cates is going to play in the Olympics, if I recall.
Oh yeah, you're right on that.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So that's dope.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, but like, no, I agree with you, because I'm like, in my mind, I was like, this is about your fan base is pissed. Yeah. Showcase that you actually have young talent,
because apparently we don't. So
right, like, but in fairness, it's like people also aren't seeing them.
Yeah, they're not tuned into it as much as we are. So
we're not even getting to see them.
Well, no, we're not seeing them, but I mean, we're looking into some of it more, right?
Yes, but we're not seeing. Like, okay, Isaac Ratcliffe, if you look at his numbers on the surface level, you're like, oh, he's not going to make an impact.
You think he's not doing that well, but
then he comes to the NHL, you see him play a fourth line role, and you're like, oh, there's something here.
A big guy. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, and this might sound archaic just by the way by where the league is going. I mean, it shouldn't matter about your size if you're going to be a good player. But you can't teach 6'6". Like, if the guy's 6'6" and can remotely play as a fourth, third liner, you're going to want a guy that big on your team. You want to know why? Because every time a defenseman is going back to retrieve a puck in the corner and they have to think about a 6'6" Isaac Ratcliffe hitting them into the boards, he's going to think twice about it.
And he can shoot and he can skate. Yeah,
but that's a big factor of the game that people don't, take into account, that players, they think about stuff like that. They don't want to get hit
Rasmus.
They don't want to get hit by a big guy. Rasmus comes into effect there too. They don't want to get hit by a big competitive guy and get hurt like that, But that's
the problem when we go. It's like we're going full circle, right? That's the problem with like letting go of somebody like Rasmus Ristolainen, is that you're gonna have to replace him.
You are, yeah.
And you can't replace him with a young guy either.
No,
like those aren't defensemen that are young. Like even if they're 6'4" or whatever, they're not going to play like Rasmus Ristolainen.
My only thing with him is, I'm going to go back to what we were talking to last week, is where I said, if the Flyers have the cap space, go after Josh Manson.
Sure.
I mean, I would personally, if I'm going to get rid of Ristolainen, you have to bring in a guy of that ilk. So he's also physical.
In UFA, you mean?
He's in UFA, yeah. He's also physical, and he's just he's a bit better, I would say, in terms of his own defensive coverage. And I think he only makes $4.1 million right now.
So, okay. So if I was just about to look it up. So he is making, you're right, 4.1, right? and he is a UFA.
Yeah.
Right. Now his numbers are worse than Rasmus, statistically. I'm not saying he's a worse defenseman, but of late, he's definitely a defensive defenseman, though he does have 134 point season.
Oh, he's not a scorer. Like he's not going to score points. It's more about the defense first with him. So that's the same for Risto too. I think.
Right, but he's a guy you're going to have to compete for in the open market.
Yeah,
you're theoretically.
So why not sign Risto? Exactly.
He's smaller than Risto.
Yeah.
But and he's older.
Yeah.
He's also 30. So that's where I don't know, I'm not going to be upset if we trade Risto, but I'm also not going to be upset if we re-sign him. It just depends on the amount.
Yeah, and the option. That's the thing. $6 million. That's what I think.
We can't do it.
That's my thinking. That I feel like a guy like Manson, just looking at his stats the last few seasons,
he'll take less.
He'll take less money, right? And that's what I'm thinking. You're kind of getting almost a replacement at a cheaper price if Risto kind of outprices you. But it's obviously all based on kind of what happens here. It's hard for us to predict it so far out of the way. Well, but I mean, that's something to look to, or a guy like that. I think we have to they should be trying to kind of replace him with, because when you remove a guy like that off a defense, the Flyers defense already isn't the greatest. Take away Risto and the physicality, I'm sure it's not going to be the most positive effect.
No, absolutely. And
factor that
and to your point, we're not predicting anything.
No,
we're putting our shoes.
We're just talking about it.
Well, we're putting we're putting on the hats of the GM. That's what we're doing.
Projecting.
We're talking about because anybody tells you that they can predict this stuff, they're fucking lying. And a friend of mine hit me up with I'm gonna leave all names out of it. He hit me up. He's like, "Yo," he's like, "I don't believe this." He's like, "I just want to pass a message on to you because I heard it." And he's like, I heard it from, another, type of media person like us. And, I have inside word on what was heard. Flyers,
that's what I want to know.
On what the Flyers off-season plan is. And I'm like, immediately when somebody tells me that, I was like, they don't fucking know anything.
Take it with a grain of salt, but sure.
Well,
let's see what you have to say.
Oh, dude, I don't believe any of that stuff almost ever.
My brother's sister's cousin knows Claude Giroux, and he heard.
And Claude Giroux wouldn't even know. Well, that's the reality. Is majority of people have no idea what they're talking about. But they're like, oh, all UFAs are gone, and then they're going for Goudreau, John Klingberg. I forget who the other person was brought up. It was just I'm like, yeah, that seems like something a fan would say.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not happening. I was
that's what I proposed last week. I'm like, let's get John Klingberg.
Well, again, I get it. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I don't want John Klingberg. But it was this idealistic. I'm like, yeah, the Flyers have an idealistic game plan with fucking 40 games left in the season without moving anybody out yet, and being like, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. We're
still not knowing if for all we know, Calgary could win the cup this season. And Johnny Gaudreau could resign. That's the thing, right? We're so far away. You never really know.
Who would you rather have, Mangiapane or Gaudreau?
Oh, Gaudreau. So Mangiapane is.
Don't you think they'll let Mangiapane walk and keep Gaudreau?
My thoughts is that Gaudreau's wanted out of there for a long time. So
yeah, because he wants to come to Philadelphia.
Pretty much.
That's
he's a Philly boy. But.
I mean, honestly, that's the only way I could see. In my opinion, I think the Flyers want to trade Claude Giroux.
Yeah.
I think they want to trade him. They want the assets.
I think he knows too. His time is dwindling down here. I think he can, see it coming. And speaking of Giroux, with Alex Ovechkin out with COVID, not being able to attend the All-Star game, he's now been named the Metropolitan Division captain for the All-Star game. So that'll be a nice, kind of last hurrah.
He should have been captain over Ovechkin to begin with, in my opinion, but that's just me. So Ovechkin really a captain. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, he is.
But is he a captain?
Is he come on, guys, let's get serious?
I guess he's a cup winner, so he definitely. He's an incredible.
You gotta give him the props. You gotta give him the props.
Incredible hockey player, but
we're just messing around. But for Giroux, that's a good last hurrah for him as the Flyers captain. They named the Metro captain for the All-Star game.
Sad, dude.
It is sad. When I saw that, I was thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, wow, it's gonna be one of his last Flyers memories.
I really hope dude, I really again, this is an idealistic thing for me, but get rid of JVR, bring back G, trade G at the trade deadline, sign him in the off season. I think it's all idealistic. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. The only thing with it for me is it's the only way I see him coming back if he gets traded. The only way he's coming back is if he wins. If he wins the cup, I think he'll come back. If he doesn't win, he's going to go try to win once again.
I honestly think
he has the right to. He has the right to.
I honestly think it has more to do with the Flyers than it does him. Like, really? Remember Simone Gagne?
He wanted to come back after he got traded. Yeah,
he was promised a contract by Paul Holmgren, handshake deal, and then they never even signed him.
I mean, I see Giroux definitely coming back and retiring and spending his maybe final season here if he gets traded away, something like that.
That's kind of my thing. Is like, dude, if you guys really plan on competing next year, if you're serious about what you're saying,
might as well try.
Then that's what you'll do. You'll be like, gee, we're going to trade you, and then we're going to sign you in the offseason if you want to come back.
That's fair enough. I mean, why wouldn't you bring him back? He's leading the team in points. He's one of the best players ever donned the orange and black in all.
He's your captain.
History. He's your captain. Consistently, year in, year out, he's dragging this team to any sort of relevancy in this last decade when you gave him no support. I mean, it would be very awesome. I mean, just to see him, have a little more success with the Flyers, just based on, the lack of success the team's had with him as captain. I just don't know if it's in the cards, which is unfortunate.
I don't know either, man. Like I said, to me, it's idealistic, but like I just think it's really sad that it ends this way with Giroux.
This way, I know, yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, if we get Alex Newhook and a first-round pick for him, my tears
will
go away pretty quickly.
Or Bowen Byram, any of them.
Oh, I don't think we're not getting Bowen Byram.
The only reason why I think that he's a possibility is just because of the injuries. He had a couple injuries early on. I mean, that could be a red flag.
Top 4 though for them.
He's out right now. That's the thing. He has a concussion.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I mean, right? Like the injuries, they might have taken a step back on him. I know Sakic was saying that he really doesn't want to get rid of Newhook, but I mean, if you want to get a guy like Giroux, you're not going to be sorry to say, Tyson Jost isn't going to cut it. I don't think. I think they'll be able to get a better prospect from another team. So Colorado is, set on Jost or nothing, then I don't think they're going to get him. And I mean, the way Colorado's been playing now with McKinnon out with a concussion too, they're kind of faltering a little bit. So
you know what, dude? I'm looking at their D. Maybe you're right, because I look at their defensive pairings. Yeah, it's Devin Taves, Cale Makar, Jack Johnson. Oh, that's okay. That's the Bowen Byram replacement. He's their 7th. So it's Jack Johnson and Samuel Girard right now, then Ryan Murray and Eric Johnson. So Byron comes in, he takes out Johnson.
Devon Taves, is he in there? Or is he in?
Yeah, he's top pairing with Cale Makar. Okay. But you look at that, I mean,
that's a stacked defense. There's only so many defensemen you can pay.
Newhook was in their lineup.
He was 3rd line unless he's hurt. Last time I checked,
maybe
scratched.
He's day to day.
Oh, okay.
They're missing McKinnon. Obviously McKinnon with that big head injury.
Yeah.
Bowen Byram, McKinnon, and Newhook are all out. Stefan Mateo's on IR.
That's the thing, though. I mean, you're already paying Devon Taves a good chunk of change. They're paying Girard a good chunk of change. I believe McCarshall is entry level, so they're gonna have to pay him. And when I mean pay him, a lot of money. Yeah. Are you gonna have the money to re-sign a Bowen Byram? I mean, that's what I think. Obviously, Sakic's trying to gauge. I mean, you don't want to do that when you have a team.
He's a tough negotiator, though. We have to remember that too. He has not lost a single trade.
No, so we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of other good prospects to look to too. If Colorado doesn't give those guys up, I mean, Jack Drury's an option from Carolina. Fabian Lysell from Boston.
I know that Florida has an abundance of young.
Owen Tippett, they were saying could be looking to move him.
Is he really as tempting to you though? I'm more interested in the center.
Yeah, he's a winger, but he can score.
Totally
he can score goals. So I mean, if they can get him, I wouldn't be against it.
This year
he has decent points.
10 goals and 6 assists.
I think Tippett might have something close to that, and it's he's played 2 seasons in the league at this point. So
what does Morgan Frost have this year?
I think he has 5 goals or 4 goals.
Does he really have 5 or 4 goals?
Yeah, I have his thing opened up. He has
2 goals.
2 goals. I'm optimistic. 12 points or no, 7 points, 26 games. Oh, okay.
It's actually not that terrible considering missing a whole season last year.
No, and also though, but also like in those games, he's played majority of them in like a devastating losing streak. So
yeah,
I can't really put that much stock.
Well, I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's why I'm looking at it, because you look at Newhook where his team is like rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
Oh man, he's 6'3".
Oh damn! Well, actually,
I know he's not. No, he's
Tippett only has 6 goals this season, 14 points, 41 games. That's not as enticing. Maybe there's a reason why they want to move on from him.
Yeah, Owen Tippett is not as enticing for me. Not that I wouldn't like him, but like
there's other better options probably.
Like I almost would be just as tempted to take Tage Thompson.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just like kind of like thinking about like I don't know. Look, the reality is I don't fucking have any idea what we're gonna get for Claude Giroux.
No, me neither. But it's gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be pretty good though.
They don't have a first round pick this year.
So then they're that
probably or a second.
So that might stall things. I mean, unless we're looking for 2023, which is also going to be a very, very strong.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd almost take that over.
It's really honestly, it's really up to.
It's really not tough. It's not Kadri, which I heard rumored. You're not trading Kadri, who's 31 years old, for Claude Giroux, who's 34. Like you're not.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Well, especially for a team looking to win the Stanley Cup. Like,
they're not going
to actively subtract from.
How many points does he have this year?
He's I think third in overall in scoring. Yeah, second.
He's got 60 points in 41 games, and
again, kind of unreal.
I mean, you got to realize like.
Who's playing with, too.
Yeah, that's the reality. I mean, you have 40. This is the reality of what we're looking at, is that our players are underperforming because our team is underperforming. I mean, statistically, like even Giroux, like you put him on a team that's rocking and rolling, he's over.
Put him next to Nathan McKinnon, and let's see what.
Or just a team that's producing.
Well, that too.
Like a team that's playing well, like where he doesn't have to be the man every fucking night. Tyson Jost is 23.
I wouldn't. I feel like he is. I feel like he is going to be like a decent third, maybe second liner. I've seen him play a lot.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Colorado over the last few years.
He was a highly touted prospect, but he's never been. He was always a two-way guy.
He's never shown like the flash of, okay, there's that offensive guy that we need.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't even know. Maybe Colorado might not even be the team. I mean, do they really need Claude Giroux, or are they going to go after Rasmus Ristolainen?
Hey, who knows? I mean, with their defense, they
don't really need anything. They need a goalie. Maybe they go for Jones.
There's a lot of options. I mean, for the Flyers, I think any number of like Colorado, Florida, Toronto, Boston, the Rangers, Vegas, because Vegas is in on every name. Don't count them out.
The Rangers could use him.
Yeah, Rangers.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance that we can get Capo Caco
for Giroux? I mean, I wouldn't roll.
I don't think you're not getting Lafreniere.
No, I wouldn't put Lafreniere is not happening. I wouldn't put Capo Caco out of the realm of possibility. I think it just depends on, like, if you're getting Capo Caco, you're maybe just getting him in a first. Like, there's no more second rounder added in with him.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but if you're getting a guy like Caco,
I would say it might be a second.
Yeah,
just because of how highly touted he
exactly. Exactly. That's the thing. So it depends what you're looking for for the Flyers. It also depends the plan that Fletcher has. Like, if he has something in his mind that, okay, I'm going to use the draft picks that I acquire from this draft to like trade up and get a certain player. Like, we don't know what he has in his mind or what the purview is. So
I just look at a guy like Caco because and again, people hate on Nolan Patrick, but like, okay, Capo Caco in 3 years. Okay.
Probably less points.
151. Let's just go for the first 2 years. That's prior to Nolan Patrick's injury. His first year in the league, he had 10 goals, 13 assists, 66 games, minus 26. Second year, he had 9 goals, 8 assists, and 17 points plus 3 in 48 games. This year, he has 5 goals, 9 assists, 14 points, 37 games. Now, this is a guy who went second overall. Yeah. I don't hear people going, the Rangers don't know how to draft.
Well, it's because the Rangers are doing well. If they were doing terrible too, their fans would be screaming about Capo Caco and Lafreniere being busts as well. Artemi Panarin, I mean, he changes a lot of things. If you get an Artemi Panarin who 100%. Wants to go to your team, and you get an Adam Fox who wants to go to your team, and then you get a Russian superstar goalie and Igor Shesterkin who wants to sign with the Rangers only, 100%. You get a team that ends up being really good really quick. It's just not every team's realistically going to have that path that the Rangers had. They're blessed to the fact that they are playing in New York City. That's just a factor.
Yeah, it makes it a more desirable marketplace. And then here, Lafreniere, first year, 56 games, 12 goals, 9 assists, -7. He had 21 points, 56 games. Second year, 45 games, 10 goals, 3 assists, 13 points, -2 on a very good team. Let's look at our famous friend, Nolan Patrick, and let's look at his numbers from his first 2 years. And again, this is before the serious head injury, after getting abdominal core surgery, which people...
What do you have, 30-something points in his first season?
In both seasons. First year, 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points, +1. Second year, 13 goals, 18 assists, 31 points, -8.
Similar to those guys. So
yeah,
it's funny, though. It's just what a successful team will do to the perception around a younger player versus a team that might not be doing 100%. The best. And it's all perception at the end of the day, right? If the Flyers, let's say the Flyers with Nolan Patrick last year were one of the best teams in the league, is anybody crying, let's trade Nolan Patrick?
No, they'll be like, oh, well, Nolan's like slowly working his way through the system. He'll be ready when,
Yeah, exactly. But that's just what it is, right? It's at the end of the day, it's professional sports. Expectations mean everything. If you're not meeting the expectations, someone's going to be screaming about why you're not meeting them.
But they have to be realistic expectations.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like Cale Makar has exceeded
those
everyone's expectations.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I still don't think he's the best defenseman at playing defense in the league. No. But he's the best offensive defenseman in the league.
Yeah, and dynamic in terms of dynamic ability too.
It's without a doubt. I said the same thing about Erik Karlsson.
I mean, the thing is with those younger guys like a Patrick, Capo Caco, Lafreniere that people have to, look at is they're still very young. Just because they're not doing the greatest right now doesn't mean at 25 years old they're not going to have a 30-goal season.
I would take either one of those players that you mentioned.
Yeah,
easily,
me too.
Easily, in a heartbeat.
Well, I mean, look at Sean Couturier. Until about 24, 25 years old, everybody thought he was a bust.
Let's look at his numbers just to remind people, even though I definitely have brought this up before. Yeah. Again, he was initially slated to go in the top 3, potentially first overall.
Yeah.
He had mono, and in that mono season, he still had 95 points in juniors.
And missed a handful of games.
Yeah, dominated juniors, okay? First year in the league, 13 goals, 14 assists, 27 points, +18, though. Very good, but we were a good team at the time. Yeah. Next year, in 46 games, he had 4 goals, 11 assists. Then the following year, 82 games, 13 goals, 26 assists. The following year, 82 games, 15 goals, 22 assists. And we seeing a pattern here?
Yeah, now he's arguably, a point per game Selke winner. So
yeah, and then the following year,
you gotta wait. The Flyers didn't trade Couturier. They did trade Nolan Patrick. We'll see if it comes back to haunt them.
I think without a
years down the line.
I think without a doubt, it's already haunting us now to some. And again,
it's just the lost potential that could have been, right? And that's the thing that's hard to kind of stomach.
It's the lost potential and the fact that you put your hopes in an aging player who I still think is very good, and I don't think his career is over or anything like that.
No.
But you traded a strength that you had in this team, which was a young centerman and a young defenseman, for an older vet at the tail end of, not the end of his career, but in the second, in the second half of his career. Yeah, exactly. And you take a risk now with health, right? And you already had that with the other 2 guys. So that's what I'm saying. The trade itself is not crazy and it's not stupid. No. All I said at the time that it happened, I got a lot of crap for it, said, oh, it's not a trade I would make. I'm like, I'm not trading.
But everybody's, entitled to their own opinion. And realistically, I think Fletcher just thought the team was moving and going to a place where Ellis, he was wrong, where Ellis would be better suited to help them get to where they're going.
He's right about that.
Yeah.
We needed what else? We still do need what else.
We still do need that. So I'll give him.
It wasn't a stupid trade.
No, that's what I mean. I give him credit for the fact that he addressed that. Okay, this is a weakness, and everybody else saw it, and he went to try to make a move. And that's what I like about Fletcher is at least he'll address his mistakes and try to correct them in a sense. That's at least what it seems like from his management style. Whereas Hextall, I mean, he a lot of the time would just make some puzzling signings, and when there was a mistake, he wouldn't really do much to address it. So I'll give Fletcher the credit with that.
And I agree. I do agree with what you're saying. Here's my problem with.
But there were at different points in the development phase.
Totally. But here's my problem with both of them is that like Hextall too rigid, right?
Yeah.
Fletcher's not. I wouldn't say Fletcher's rigid, but I don't know if he is as deliberate with the things that he's doing. Like I look at Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they really that great of a team? Like on paper,
right now,
their number one center is Ryan Hartman.
Yeah, I mean,
isn't he? Let me double check that.
I think it's Eriksson Ek, maybe.
Is it? Oh no, I think because of injuries he was playing top line. Let me double check it actually.
They just have a lot of depth. Like I mean, realistically, everything went right for the Flyers. The team was kind of being mirrored after that.
But do they?
Wild?
Yeah.
I just say they have a lot of guys that can consistently play at like a third line level. Like that's my.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds like the Flyers.
Okay. So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't
and then,
be wrong.
But they have Kaprizov, yeah. So that's
sure. Yeah, Ryan Hartman is their number one center.
That's kind of nuts.
Who, by the way, I liked when we traded.
I wanted to keep him too, but I did like.
People hated on him because he was 25, and everybody goes, "Oh, he is what he is." Oh, is he? Is he? It's funny how everybody says that stuff, and they never actually look into whether that actually is true or not. Yeah, because after the guy leaves, people just go, "Whatever." But then when you actually look at it, like. How many people gave up on Scott Lawton when he was 24 years old?
A ton of people. I mean, people were like,
he's still getting better, right?
Yeah, he is, I would say. Everyone would always say he's such a bust. They picked him 20th overall in the first round. Like, he's not even going to make the league. Like, I remember when they first selected him anyway.
I'm going to just go through their top 9 here, okay?
Yeah, okay.
You tell me if this top 9 versus the Flyers healthy top 9 is – You can say it's better. Is it considerably better? I would argue it's not even better. But
let's hear it.
But excuse me, Kaprizov left wing, Ryan Hartman center, Matt Zuccarello right wing.
Okay,
Zuccarello's an old man. Second
he's
line,
good though.
He's great. He's great. That's what I'm saying. I like their lineup.
Yeah,
but is this a team that's on paper considerably better than the Flyers? Second line, Kevin Fiala, right? Which I know you really like, right? Frederick Gaudreau, young guy, I believe Gaudreau.
Yeah.
Matt Boldy, who's great, right? Okay. Like I really like Boldy.
Yeah.
Third line, Jordan Greenway. Third line center, Joel Eriksson Ek, who we can all agree is very, very good.
I don't know why he's not on the first line. That's weird.
I'm going off of Daily Faceoff, so they probably are just recently shipped.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying that's
probably
that's such a weird like Ryan Hartman. I don't know. You're probably right. There's probably some weird chemistry thing.
I'm going by Daily Faceoff, and honestly, Joel Eriksson Ek is a younger version of Couturier, right?
Yeah, so it's like, I'll give him that.
He's playing that defensive role, so maybe that's why they haven't listed there.
And then who else with them?
Brandon Duheim. I don't even know him that well, to be honest with you.
I don't either. So basically...
last line, Victor Rask, Nico Sturm, and Connor Duar.
So, you know what I am seeing?
And hold on, let me name the defense, okay? Alex Goligoski, okay? All this shit. Jared Spurgeon, who we all think is awesome. Second pairing, Jordy Ben. And then Jonas Brodin, who I really like. Again, these guys are Fletcher guys.
Yeah.
Fourth line, John Merrill and Dmitry Kulikov. Does that sound like a team that is considerably better than the Flyers?
No, not at all. And like, I'm just like, aside from, I mean,
Kaprizov,
they're missing Marcus Foligno, but that's not really much.
Yeah, let me look at the injuries actually. Nick Bjugstad, who I like. Oh, Matthew Dumba is out as well.
Okay, so that makes sense on the defense. I'm like, how's Jordy Ben second pair?
So
like,
Foligno's Marcus Foligno's what? Like he's a top 9 player, but he's a third line player, good one. And then Dumba is
he's like a Lawton type almost of Foligno. Like he's not a center, but it's similar.
So, but you look at that the
Flyers team is better on paper. Like
exactly.
Like we're not homers either. Like we're not homers. Like aside from Kaprizov,
healthy.
Give me Kaprizov. The Flyers' healthy lineup is way better.
So
I mean, they're not maybe as far off as we think. I mean, just kind of looking at Minnesota, but like that's what
there is something wrong. But there is something wrong here.
With some sort of culture. I mean, I don't know. We've been talking about this for weeks, Yariv. It's really just hard.
It's hard to
it's hard to pinpoint.
This is why it's so baffling.
We're not there. It's weird.
This is why it's so baffling.
We talk about this all the time. My buddies talk about this all the time. They always bring up to me like the Flyers look like they should have been good. Like what happened?
Nobody thought that the Flyers would have.
I'm like, I don't know what happened.
A 10-game and a 13-game losing streak in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's a little.
Nobody expected it.
Okay,
to that level.
Speaking of that, like the expectations that we had, I mean, we're obviously way higher than the way the team's performing.
No doubt about it.
Just to end things off here. What's the expectations for the rest of the season and going forward? Like, what do you want to see? We've already touched on the evaluation period. Like, if there's one thing or just a few things you want to see, what are they going forward for the season? For the season.
Okay, well, I would really like to see Cam York get some ice time with Ivan Provorov.
I like that.
I'd like to see certain guys that I know for sure 100% that are not part of this team moved on earlier rather than later. And I'd like to see Isaac Ratcliffe continue to get shots at the NHL. I've kind of been waiting for it. I said it prior to the season started. And I'd like to, it's unfortunate. There's a lot of young guys that I would like to see play, get injured. But what I'd like to see is like, it's hard for me to say I want them to win, even though I do, but like, I do want that top pick. But I'd like to see like it, if we're not getting that top pick and the team does turn around, that is still an encouraging thing. But what I'd like to see is I'd like to see the right moves being made for next year. Like show off the young guys, show us what we're getting in the future, get rid of guys like Jones. We don't really need them anymore. Get what you can for these guys, like call up Sandstrom, do whatever you got to do, finish out the season strong, and in the sense of like showing off talent, because it's hard for me to want to see them win over and over again because they're not making the playoffs. And we need an ignite in this organization.
And that pick could be something that does it. So
exactly. Having said that, from a business standpoint, you gotta expect that they're gonna try to win. They're not gonna be content with just like losing out. Just like I just can't.
No professional organization is, no matter how inept everybody thinks that they are,
and especially because they've been underperforming, which is key to all this. And that's what drives me nuts when people say there's no talent here. It's just like it's just not true.
Yeah, it's just not clicking in the right way. There's just a lot of injuries, but they're not. But there's also talent. So.
And let's talk about this. Like the way the team played last night, they don't have enough talent to beat the Jets 3-1.
No,
and they outplayed the Jets yesterday.
Yeah, they did.
They're devoid of a lot of talent, yet they still played.
So imagine with a full lineup. I mean, aside from the injuries, too.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. There's something wrong when your whole lineup is underperforming. There's something wrong. You need to find out what that is.
I think that's the main
fix it.
I think that's the main takeaway, really, for the rest of the season. Obviously, like what you spoke to there, I would love to see as well. I just want to see the younger guys get their opportunities, and I mean, they are obviously with a lot of the veterans getting traded away. A main thing for me, as you said as well, is seeing York get to play with Provorov would be a nice thing. I mean, get him some more top pairing minutes, see how he handles it. I think he'll get the opportunity to, just because Braun's likely going to get moved on from. And then also interested to see Sandstrom get more opportunities too after Jones goes. I mean, that'll be something to evaluate, just to see if he can maybe take on the backup role for next season, or just an option. I mean, Fedotov will be an option too that they can look at in training camp. I think the main thing really, and the thing we need to look towards is just instilling the right habits with the younger guys, just the right practice habits, carrying yourself as a professional. And just because the team's losing, not quitting, not giving up, that's the last thing that you want to see. And that's the last thing that you want to see from a mentality from a sports organization. And the Flyers going forward to try to be competitive against this next season. Obviously, we want to see them get the best pick as they can, but learning how to win, learning how to hold a lead, learning how to play in tight checking games, that's all things that I want to see, worked on with Mike Yeo. And he's a great developmental coach. So I think we'll see a lot of that unfold. And the last thing, as you were saying, is find what's wrong in terms of just a lot of the high-end veteran guys who have been underperforming, or just a lot of the players in general who have been underperforming, and why that's happening, and pinpointing how we can kind of change that going into next year. Because another underperformance by a ton of those players, I don't think can happen next season again, or else Fletcher's gone, right?
I mean, Fletcher's gone, and then you are talking about a full-on rebuild, and they don't have a choice at that point. And nobody would blame them. It would have to be like what the Rangers did. Hey, we're writing a letter. This isn't working. We're getting rid of a bunch of these guys.
To move on. Exactly.
I still think that Ivan Provorov wouldn't get traded.
I wouldn't trade him.
I don't think he would, and I don't think Carter. I think Sanheim would. I don't think Provorov
Carter Hart.
I don't think Carter Hart would.
Carter or Hart wouldn't either. Yeah, I think those guys are untouchable for
Couturier. I think those guys would stay.
Those are your four,
and everybody else is maybe Atkinson too, and everybody else is probably gone
on the table. Yep.
Yeah, every single other person is gone at that point, or on the table. York as well probably would also stay.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this up, and we can end on this. Do you remember the season where the Flyers finished with their worst record in franchise history?
Do I remember?
Yeah,
that was 05-06, right? Or 06-07. That was after the lockout.
You nailed it, right? Okay. They came out of the lockout.
Yeah, they had Peter Forsberg, Gagne, Knubel.
Well, Forsberg was like out.
He was injured though. I swear he played he played a month, got hurt or something.
He played half the year. He had injured. He played the entire half year injured. He still had 40 points in 14 games.
I swear Gagne had like 40. Almost
he had 40 goals. 41 goals, 27 assists, 68 points, and 76.
Yeah, and then that was the year where like Bobby Clark rebuilt the defense around Darian Hatcher, Mike Rathje, and who else?
The year before that he did that, and it fell apart. They traded they traded Alexei Zhidnik that year for Braden Coburn.
That's a blast from the past. That was a great trade by Holmgren.
Amazing trade. That's what I'm saying, dude. People like talk shit on these GMs, and they love to like isolate like all of their record as like they completely fucked up this work. No, most GMs do some good things and they do some bad things.
If it's just the reality. Can trade Rasmus Ristolainen for Braden Coburn type, we can relive that.
Well, so this is my point. This is what I want to.
I was already reading your mind. There we go.
No, well, this is what I'm talking about. Is look, you look at the end of that year, and the way Holmgren.
Oh, they made great moves.
Dude. So they traded Peter Forsberg, which was unfortunate, but they did get Scotty Upshall in that trade, right?
Yeah.
They got, I think it was a first-round pick in return.
They got the rights to Timonen and Hartnell.
They flipped the first-round pick back
for the rights. Yeah,
for the rights to Timonen and Hartnell. Right?
Yeah.
Because they had
That's creative. That's creative. Because right? There's things they can do.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I want to see from Fletcher. Upshaw was a high energy player. I remember first game he came in, scored like an awesome breakaway. He's never a superstar player.
Always loved him though, but he's a guy you can win with.
Energy, third line guy, right? Former first round pick type of guy, like late first round pick. So like, if you can come in, bring in some high energy dudes, trade away older guys, get some young guys in return, revitalize the organization with some excitement of guys looking for opportunity, right? They're like, looking for opportunity. If you're going to trade Rasmus, can you get a guy who's like 22? You get somebody young.
And is chomping at the bit and wants to prove himself.
Exactly. You inject those guys into the system. They're going to be relatively cheap. Right.
And you create the opportunities, as you were saying, for your own organization. I mean, you can look at the season as a lost season, but you can also look at it as, okay, this is the chance for us to reset and bring in those young, high energy guys and those prospects and players that we can use, to build with moving forward. I think that focus can't be lost. That, I mean, it is a retool, but you can't just retool with a bunch of veterans like you did last season, right? And expect it's going to all play out. So, because
you look at the Flyer, and again, Mike Richards and Jeff Carter were on that team that season. Mike Richards he had 10 goals, 22 assists.
Was that his rookie year?
That's his second year in the league. First year he had very similar, 11 goals, 23 assists, 79 games. Second year he had 59 games, 10 goals, 22 assists. So again, still great start to your NHL career.
Yeah.
And then the third year is his breakout year where he had 75 points in 73 games, 28 goals, 47 assists. He was a plus 14. And you look at that team, and again, the Flyers had a big offseason. They got Danny Briere, they got Kimmo Timonen, and they got Scott Hartnell.
All game changers.
They got Joffrey Lupul. They still
all game changers.
Randy Jones. Yeah.
Randy Jones. Oh man.
Yeah,
that's a guy
of
all players that people
Steve
wanted
Downey.
to trade. Just think about all those Randy Jones trade rumors from a long time ago. That's
great.
Crazy.
Steve Downey, I think it was his.
He was a first round pick too. Yeah,
it was his rookie year that year. Yep.
He had some energy to him. Big hits.
Yeah. But yeah, my whole point is like you have an ability to turn this around with a down year. And I forget about even Jeff Carter, who had 29 goals, 24 assists, 53 points that year. Richard had 75 points.
Which is crazy.
Christ. Richard's dude, God, he was so fucking awesome when he was in his
prime.
That
guy, man, he just like literally would go through a wall for the team.
He was the best. And awesome. Danny Briere at 72 points. He was a minus 22 on a team where like everybody was a plus player.
That's okay.
But the whole point is that like there's a lot of stuff you can do right, taking advantage of everything going wrong.
It's just, I mean, savvy moves need to be made. And then the main thing I think too is just what you get back in terms of the assets.
I just convinced myself to trade Rasmus Ristolainen again. I literally in the same hour you can talk me one way or another, like because again it's
a really hard one. It's a really hard one.
We don't know anything. We don't know how much money he's asking. We don't know what the offers on the table are.
With all those factors up in the air, it could really literally go either way.
But I think we both agree the goal is to shed salary between now.
Oh yeah.
And the off season.
And the reason is just keep your options open. You never know who's going to become. You never know who's going to become available in the off season based on some sort of postseason run by a young guy that makes a veteran player or somebody that you never thought would get traded. Now,
and if we do lose G and we get Johnny Gaudreau, I mean,
if there's anybody to replace him with, it's pretty good replacement.
Maybe it'll be what's his name? Thomas Hertl could be another guy.
Philip Forsberg. There's options.
Oh man, Phil Forsberg would be fucking awesome too.
I mean, I don't see Nashville letting him go, but
he's not going anywhere.
I mean, technically,
they're also making the playoffs.
Yeah, technically, anything can happen. Is he still a UFA? So who really knows?
Totally agree, but the reality is, unless the team is really is going to underpay you significantly from what you're asking for, why are you going to move your whole fucking life?
Yeah, pretty much. You got to be realistic. They're human beings. So.
Yeah, they're friends with everybody on the team. A lot of these guys have families, little kids, just like G. G doesn't want to go anywhere.
No.
He doesn't want to move.
Just for those reasons.
And honestly, I think the Flyer, dude, it is the only player that I think realistically can be traded and re-signed. Every other player, I would say, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like when Wayne Simmons was traded, we had opportunities to bring him back and we didn't come back.
No, I could see G definitely coming back. It just has to be under the right circumstances.
Let's just hope we have a great fucking time. So we have a break right now. It's an all-star break. Check out Claude Giroux as he leads Team Metro. This is like so boring to say.
It's such a boring
but it you know what though, the 3-on-3 I'd say is cool. More interesting than what they used to do.
No, yeah, the 5-on-5 just score, like have a 12-8 score or something.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh, so fucking. I think the All-Star game is fucking horrendous.
I still think they should go back and do North American versus Euro, at least to make it more interesting.
I like that a lot, but you know what I would like to see, which will never happen again, is the Stanley Cup winners versus the All-Stars. To see if a Stanley Cup team can actually beat a team of all-stars.
I think it'd be more. I feel like the players would be prideful in that because they'd be like, "Come on, we can't beat these guys. Look at us, we're all-stars."
It would be like Tampa Bay Lightning versus an all-star team.
I feel like they could win. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting.
It is.
All right, let's call it a night. We thought we would go short. We still ended up doing an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's just how we roll at this point. I think
next week we got Russ Cohen coming on.
That'll be great. Right?
Yeah.
Russ is awesome.
I'm sure we'll talk more about – he's pretty real about the Flyers, so I'm sure we'll be ripping into them a little bit and talking about young guys. He's very well informed on that stuff, so it'll be interesting. Anything you're working on, Vasili? Anything you want to tell people about yourself?
I will have an article coming up either actually probably not tomorrow, but Friday most likely. And then after that, I mean – everybody just read all the content, all the articles, subscribe to the other podcasts on the, Flyers Nitty Gritty website, O&B podcast. They kill it. So listen to them too. and just check everything out on the site if you can. It's a huge help to us all.
Yeah, shout out to Chef and Isaiah and Dan Silver as well, for sure. And obviously I've had Isaiah on here a few times already, and Chef on as well. I've not had Dan Silver on, mostly for scheduling conflicts. But let me do this because I totally forgot. Shout out to Jim Steaks on South. Make sure you get those cheesesteaks from Jim Steaks. You're all miserable. Let's be honest. Let's
get some comfort food. Get some Jim Steaks.
You nailed it. Just get fat, comfy.
Watch the Flyers maybe add to their winning streak. You never know.
Yeah, dude. I wouldn't be. Would you be surprised if they went on a mini winning streak again? They did it after a 10-game losing streak.
Peak Flyers. I would not be surprised at all, especially with the young guys getting more comfortable too.
I will say they always start turning things around as we hit a break.
Pretty much.
Last time was like a COVID break.
Yeah.
It's just always
this time a Christmas, or it was a Christmas COVID break. This time it's an All-Star break.
It's like it gets some momentum.
Who knows?
But right now we need it.
We're either going to come out to another 10-game losing streak or a 10-game win streak. So there's no middle ground for this team.
Fingers crossed for Logan Cooley.
Yeah, we'll see it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, do the whole thing. It's a humongous help to us. We do read all the comments. Don't have the time to respond to them lately just because I'm working a fuck ton.
Same here. So try as much as we can.
Yeah. But we sincerely appreciate it. The channel is definitely still growing and our numbers have gone up, especially since Vasili has joined. And it's dope. And we're going to keep doing more. We'll try to keep getting more unique guests. As I get a little more time after this new job, I'm going to start exploring some new opportunities and hopefully we can get some new people on here as well. But I'll be bringing back the old people who are awesome and reliable as well. And thank you, Vasili. This was a fun one.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome. I hope everybody enjoys listening.
This was maybe our nerdiest one because we literally didn't even go off a topic list. We just sat there talking
talked about hockey for like an hour and a half. Yeah,
that was essentially
it definitely was.
Yeah,
pretty much. We didn't even look at the topic list once.
No, I didn't look at it.
It's more fun that way anyway.
Yeah, organic. All right, thank you ever again, everybody. Please, keep your spirits up and there will be good stuff at the end of this.
The off season's going to be good. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have a weird feeling that things are going to start turning around.
Same.
For real.
I think we're just optimistic people, but I have a faith.
Darkest before the dawn type of
moment. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. And remember, always stay green.